Howdy folks, you're watching Deuce, and today we're going to talk about some weird gunpowder that I found in some surplus ammo. I was doing some research for another YouTuber, and I was doing some measurements, taking some measurements of some surplus Greek ammo, the HXP ammo meant for the M1 Garand, as you can tell in that clip there. It's what they used for their M1 Garands when we loan leased them all their M1 Garands, and they used them and they made their own ammo for them. I got a couple of crates of these. And I took one apart to take a look at it, to take some measurements of the bullet itself and some diagrams of it for this other person, and I spilled some gunpowder. And it turned out it's the weirdest gunpowder ever seen in a full-size 30 caliber round. Let's take a look at it. Here's a normal ammo right there. Come on, focus there, Canon. There we go. You can see right there, and if you look at the head stamp, it'll say HXP. And 1972, and that's when it was minted, was 1972. Get that out of there. And I spilled some of this over here, and you can see it is spherical gunpowder. I will zoom in as close as I can on that there. But yeah, spherical gunpowder in a 30 caliber round, which is crazy. Now, there are some reasons why they did this that I can speculate, and we'll get to those here in a second. But normally you do not use spherical gunpowder because it doesn't burn as well, as completely as it would, say, a stick powder or a flake style powder. Let me show you those. I promise you these golf balls will be relevant later on in the video. But just as a reminder, make sure you hit that subscribe button to stay up to date on all the future Deuce and Guns videos, including the Winchester rifle sitting behind me, which needed some serious surgery to get working because out of the box, it was completely broken. The vast majority of my 30 caliber, non-magnum loads, and 5.56 loads is going to be Reloader 15. You find this on all kinds of precision rifle shooters' benches for reloading. And it is called a stick powder. Let me just pour out just a little bit here for you guys to feast your eyes on some stick powder. And basically it's an extrusion like what you'd find in a Play-Doh play set, and it comes out in a big tube and is chopped off at a certain length. I personally think a stick powder like the Reloader 15 is probably the best thing to use in a rifle cartridge, but I will admit that it is kind of hard to meter if you're not going to weigh every single round, every single charge. It is kind of difficult to meter through an automatic basis. Most pistol and shotgun rounds will use a flake style powder, such as this red dot. Red dot is really a shot shell powder, but you can use it for pistol rounds as well. And you'll see it's huge flakes of powder. Look at that sucker. That's big old flat flakes of powder. Let me zoom in there for you. And it's called red dot because it has red dots in it. The red dots don't actually mean anything in the gunpowder. It's just there to differentiate it from the blue dot and other types of powder that look exactly the same. Just in case it gets separated from the original bottle, you'll know what you got there. And flake style powder is traditionally a very fast burning powder, which is why you use it in shotguns and in pistols, because you need to burn a bunch of powder very quickly. Shotguns, because there's a lot of powder to burn in an 18-inch barrel or whatnot. And for pistols, you got a lot of powder to burn in a 4-inch barrel. And now we get to the closest thing I've ever used to this grease-made ball powder, and that is Accurate number 2. This was the first gunpowder that I ever bought, and I used a bunch of this stuff. And it is a spherical powder. Pour some out there, but it's a much finer powder. You can see right there, these spheres are much, much smaller than the grease surplus. It's very finely ground spheres of gunpowder there, so it ignites very quickly. It burns very hot, which is really convenient for someone on a budget because you can stretch this. Especially for 9mm and 45 ACP, you can just use a sprinkle of this and it works. A little bit goes a long way. You can load a couple of thousand rounds of 9mm with 1 pound of powder. So why would the Greeks use the spherical gunpowder? Well, I think it boils down to speed and being cheap. The HXP ammo from the Greek surplus market is known to be not that accurate. My Garand shoots it pretty damn well. You have to have a very, very tight barrel to get some accuracy out of this stuff. Luckily, mine is a brand new barrel. Probably use this spherical ammo because it's very fast and very easy to load the ammunition with. It meters very quickly. For instance, if you take 2 buckets and you fill them both with golf balls, one of them you throw the golf balls in and just shake it around a little bit, and the other one you individually place each individual golf ball to the point where it's as dense as possible, you're going to have almost the exact same density of golf balls in both buckets. In contrast to the golf balls, if you try to shove stick powder, which I'm going to use these empty 22 shells as an analog to the stick powder, if you try to shove too much stick powder too quickly through, well, this funnel, which will be our analog to a reloading die, some of that comes through and then it clogs up. And that's exactly what happens if you try to shove too much Reloader 15 too quickly through a reloading die. It stops and then you end up an undercharge in the cartridge, and that will of course cause a jam later on if you try to shoot it. This also happens with flake powder, especially real big flake powder like the red dot powder here. It will bridge over inside the reloading die, and half of it will get into the cartridge, the other half does not, and you end up with a squib load where it can be very, very dangerous. Which is why experienced reloaders keep a very close eye on the powder charges. If you were in charge of a factory manufacturing ammunition and your goal is to make ammo as quickly as possible with the machinery that you have, then it's a best bet to try to find a charge spherical style gunpowder that will work well in that cartridge and use that, because you can run them super, super quick and it won't be as accurate as a stick powder or a flake powder, but you're hardly ever going to be out of bounds into the, as far as safety margins go, in the gunpowder charge. If you try to use a flake powder or stick powder with the same machinery going at the same speeds, then you're going to be falling outside of that safety margin and have some major issues going down the line. And that is my best theory why the HXP Greek ammo uses that spherical powder. It's all about speed, getting as much ammo as possible made out of that one factory. And it does work. It does go bang. I've never had no, actually I have. I have had some duds. Never mind. It's kind of crap ammo. But if it does go bang, it's usually pretty accurate if you have a very, very new barrel. But if you got a little bit of wear on your M1 Garand, or if you're shooting this out of a normal 30-06 rifle, you're going to have some issues if you don't have a very, very tight throat and muzzle. Well, guys, that's for me today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give me a like and go subscribe. A lot more is on the way. If you have any comments, questions, or show ideas, leave that in the comment box of the video. I'll try to do as many as possible. And as always, you guys have a great day. See ya.